Welcome to No Excuses. My name is Mary Fran, and today we are going to review a book. Now, I actually heard about this book on a couple different YouTube channels, which I am so sorry, I cannot remember who mentioned it. So if it's you, thank you. But I actually heard about this book, and it was called Fasting Like a Girl by Mindy Pelz. And I went to my library and put a hold on it. There was a hold, and I waited a long time for this. And I kind of honestly forgot about it. And the only reason I put it on my list is because it came highly recommended. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I've fasted in the past. So yeah, let me read more about this. Unbeknownst to me though, a couple weeks ago, I had my little meltdown and I decided to do intermittent fasting. And after I had finished 1 week of intermittent fasting, surprisingly enough, I got a notification that I had a book that was on hold that was ready for me. And it was the book, Fasting Like a Girl by Mindy Pelz. Talk about perfect timing. In this book, the author actually talks about fasting. She's a huge proponent of fasting. And one of her main points in this book is the fact that fasting is awesome. But as a female, we need to fast a little differently because our bodies have a lot more hormones. And those hormones fluctuate throughout the month. You know, when you ovulate, one hormone dips low, but then it's going to soar high when you actually have your period. And she said, because of these fluctuations, you need to tailor your fasting to match what these are. Because you want to match your eating and your fasting to these different hormones to actually enhance them, to make them actually superpower practically. And so she actually talks about the different types of fasting and how you want to use them within your cycle. Now, one of the big things that she talks about in her book is the fact that our bodies are made to heal themselves. Our bodies are amazing. And she is talking about how we can heal ourselves. Does this sound familiar? Because we talked about our body healing ourselves back in the book, How Not to Die, which I did review. You can check it out. So she talks about that. And then furthermore, she goes into the different types of fasts and she actually breaks it down. What is happening in your body when you actually reach a certain amount of fast time? Starts the book with talking about the 6 different types of fasting. The first one she actually refers to is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is when you are fasting for 13 to 15 hours. Because when you do this, you're going to improve your growth hormones, you're going to start making ketones, and you're going to lower your insulin. The next stage is when you are fasting for 17 plus hours. This is the stage where cells start to repair themselves. Because there is studies that show that it actually will start to kill cancer cells at this point. There are studies that show that it helps dementia patients and that it helps menopause symptoms. The next one is what she calls the gut reset, and that is when you are fasting for 24 hours. Now, in one of her videos, because yes, I did go watch some of her videos, she actually talked about how OMAD is not technically a 24-hour fast. It's actually a 23-hour fast if you think about it. She's like, the benefits of a 24-hour fast is that it reboots your intestinal system. If you have all kinds of issues with your stomach and your digestive system, this will reboot it and restart it. The next one is the fat burner, which is 36-hour fast. She goes, this is the real big point where your body is actually going to start looking for food. And it's going to go into all the storehouses, which is what your fat is, and it's going to start using all the stuff that they stored over the years, all that fat. The happiness fast she calls is 48 hours because it raises dopamine levels. She said that 48 hours is where the aging process actually slows down. And then her final fast is the 3-day water fast, because this is where your white blood cells will slough off and new ones are created. And this is where stem cells are made. So she is actually telling you what the studies are showing is happening at every level of these fasts. So as she talks about all these 6 different types of fasts, she keeps telling you throughout the book, perfection is not what you're looking for. The beauty of fasting is there is no wrong. She goes, if you eat a little bit too early, no biggie, you just fasted a little bit less. If you eat a little bit later, no biggie, you fasted a little bit longer. There is a lot of wiggle room. Perfection is the fact that you are doing it. Now, with all these different types of fasts, you know, I did say that during your cycle, you are going to be fasting at different stages and fasting different lengths of time for different things. And then there's even going to be a period where you're not fasting. But she also, throughout the book, talks about the fact that, you know, if you really want to burn fat, just throw in one of these fast and do this. And one of the big things she talks about is the fact that our bodies are going to get comfortable. I have been doing a 16-8 fast for the last almost 2 weeks. And if I continue doing that, my body is going to grow adjusted to it. And my body will no longer respond. So she is a very, very big proponent of saying, okay, Mary Fran, you've fasted 16-8 now for 2 weeks. It's time to have a free day where you don't fast. Or it's time to throw in a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast. She said you have to keep changing up your fasts so that your body doesn't grow accustomed. Because when your body grows accustomed, it's going to keep doing the same exact things. Now, one of the things that she said with the different fasts and with healing yourself is the fact that why a fast works so well with healing yourself is the fact that when you're not eating, it takes away all that extra stuff in that your body is dealing with, and it can focus on one thing. It can focus on those cells and say, hey, this is not a healthy cell. Let's get rid of it and let's create it the better way. And she said that's what the fast is doing. It's taking away all that extraneous stuff so that our body can actually focus on doing the one thing it needs to do, which is heal, which is to reboot, which is to reset our bodies. The fasts will actually help you reduce your insulin resistance. It'll actually help you with your leptin. It'll help you with all of your hormones because, like I said, it resets. It brings you back down to a normal level because every time you eat, your body is processing. It's processing sugar, which spikes things. It's doing everything. So the fast actually takes your body back to a clean state. Now, she actually said, stop counting calories. Don't do it. You don't need to do it. And she did give some small basic pieces of advice for food. So if you're in this level of hormone for a female, then you want to probably eat this and you want to eat this if you're there. But she did not say, okay, now you need to eat a pound of strawberries and then tomorrow you need to eat 6 grapefruit. None of that. None of that. She said, eat naturally, eat normally. There is one caveat to that. And she basically said, I do not want you to eat this food. And that food was ultra processed food. Ring a bell? Yes. I just read the book Ultra Processed Food, where it talks about how all this ultra processed food is not good for our bodies. It's not feeding our bodies. It's not healthy for us. You can watch my review up here, and I highly recommend the book, actually. But she was insistent upon that. So she didn't tell you to eat fruits and vegetables, but she told you not to eat ultra processed food. And by doing that, she actually gave you one thing to do. Well, I can do that, just no ultra processed foods. What the average person isn't going to realize is when you take away those ultra processed foods, you're going to be left with whole natural foods. And those whole natural foods are going to heal your body. So it is a 1-2 punch. She didn't tell you what to eat. She just said, don't eat ultra processed. And by doing that, it made it so utterly simple. That was another point where life converged, and I'm like, okay, thank heavens I read the book Ultra Processed People, because it really gave me a very deep understanding of what she's telling me to do and why. So it was actually a really cool thing. At the end of the book, probably about 20-25% of the book, she did actually do recipes, and they were broken down into this is what you should be eating during ovulation, this is what you should be eating during this page of your cycle. And so there was a lot of recipes. So the book was really good. It was good enough that when I was done, I went and checked her out online because she does have a YouTube channel where she talks about a lot of this. And I actually watched a bunch of videos yesterday from her because her stuff makes sense. Now, my thoughts on the book. This book was top notch. It made sense. It actually really clicked in my mind. I was already primed and ready and obviously doing intermittent fasting. And after reading the book and watching her videos, I actually believe that I am going to throw in a 36-hour fast here and there. She actually said just once a month, but I might try to do a 36-hour fast to really get my body burning fat. I think I'm going to try to do a couple longer fasts. I'm doing 16 hours. I think I'm going to try to push it to a 24-hour fast. And I'm really going to try to play around with what I'm eating, what I'm doing, and doing a couple different fasts because I think that's where I need to go. Now, I had 2 problems with the book. And the first one is going to come as no surprise. I have a problem saying that I'm not going to track any of my food. I have a problem with that because maybe it's control. That just hit me. Maybe it's control. But I know that I can do a lot of damage in an 8-hour window. Oh, I can eat a whole cake in an 8-hour window. And it wouldn't be ultra processed because I make it myself with natural ingredients. But it still isn't healthy. I know that I can lose myself and I have an addiction. And so the thought of setting my addiction free for 8 hours or 1 hour or a whole day kind of scares me. Like I said, maybe it's control. That just hit me right when I was filming this. Control was not in my notes. But that scares me, to not keep track of what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm ready to drop that yet. Maybe someday. The other problem that I had with this book was the fact that I have a cycle that is like, woo, out there. And it used to be like clockwork. Like when Jason and I were first together, he would be like, aren't you about due? Because it was clockwork. But in the last year or two, it has just gone. I think my cycle right now, I think I'm like 35 days late. And I think the last cycle was 83 days, something like that. I am in my early 50s. So if you're a woman, you know what's happening to me. Now, she says that the fasting will help reduce any of these symptoms, such as, the night sweats and the hot flashes and all that. My problem is trying to follow the cycle plan because my cycle is all out there. And so for me to start, I'm just kind of starting all willy-nilly because I don't know where I am in my cycle. I don't know if I'm going to have another cycle, which would be an amazing thing. So my problem with the book is it really doesn't talk about perimenopause and what to do during that. So she did mention if your cycle's not regular, just, when you start your cycle. Well, my cycle could be 3 months from now. And so, it kind of threw me into a loop a little. She talks so heavily about menopause and people that don't have a cycle. And she talked so heavily about people that are young, but they're, and with a regular cycle. And she talked about people that are young with crazy cycles. She did not talk about people that are in perimenopause very much. And it kind of, that's where I am at. And so she just didn't talk about that a lot, which is okay because not everybody has to talk about it. But I think that she could have talked about it more to actually say, okay, this is what I think you should do if you are in perimenopause. So, that was my only thing. Anyway, I highly recommend the book. The book was very, very good. Like I said, it was good enough that I went immediately to check out her YouTube channel. And I have already checked out from the library the book, the menopause book. That she wrote. So we're going to see what happens with that. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you have read this, what you think, and what your thoughts about fasting are. And in the meantime, happy reading, no excuses. Now, this book I actually heard about this. Now, one of the things that I feel like I'm jumping everywhere.